Morning. All right, so in part one of this series on radical receiving, we're going to explore the importance of remembering your true self, your true self prior to wounding, prior to conditioning the child inside that is essentially naturally confident, naturally limitless, and reclaiming this part of you that has gone into hiding essentially so that you can feel safe and you can feel worthy enough to receive what you want and to be in resonance with creating and receiving at a higher level. The magical child, this is what I call this part of you, this innate, innocent part of you that is limitless and that is effortlessly creative, effortlessly playful and joyful. So, to be able essentially to receive with ease, with feeling worthy, feeling safe, we have to not only reclaim and remember that part, but bring it out to the forefront of our experience so that this part is essentially what is running the show. It is what is allowing us to show up in intimate relationships. It is what is allowing us to show up powerfully in our business. It is that creativity. A lot of genius comes from that magical child inside. It is also the pathway to creating a life that you're going to actually love and a business that you're going to actually love. And essentially being nourished and being able to create and receive in your life in a way that really delights you rather than feels like work and feels like effort. So that's what we're going to go over today. For those of you who don't know me, hey, I'm Ilsa. I'm a total spiritual nerd, a licensed therapist, an expansion expert, and strategist. And for almost 20 years, I've been teaching my clients how to rewire their nervous system and expand their nervous system and their lives and their business for more, essentially. So if you want more expansive growth, more easeful receiving in life, in love, in work, in wealth, then I have a 90-minute one-on-one Wired for Wealth intensive that I offer to new people, new clients for 55% off. And to book that, you can click the link in the description of this video. This is it's for everyone, right? Like if you want more from your life and you want to rewire yourself for more, then it's for you. But it's mainly for purpose-driven professionals and soulful entrepreneurs and leaders who want to repair, to recode, to expand their nervous system, to feel safe, easeful, and playful, creating, receiving, and having more. All right, let's get started. So here's the thing. The most important thing you need to realize when it comes to radical receiving and receiving more with a lot more ease, a lot more joy, a lot more playfulness, is that we are all coded for wealth and overflow. This is truly an abundant universe. All you got to do is look at a park or your garden. There's just so much abundance, but most of us cannot tap into it. For most of us, there are wounds, there are traumas, there are dramas of our childhood, of our lives, around being ourselves and around receiving money and money itself as an energy that block us. And it block our ability to bring it in, to receive it with ease, with joy. Part of us is we have to rewire that. To be able to attune to what we want and to receive it and hold it with ease, we have to rewire ourselves for it. We need to be able to regulate, recode, and expand our nervous system so that we feel safe and we feel worthy and deserving of creating and receiving what we want. In many ways, receiving is a rewiring. It is a rewiring of your identity so that you can tip the scale in your favor by embodying and normalizing the frequency of worthiness, the frequency of play, of pleasure, in regards to money, in regards to love, in regards to being powerful, to having and being more than enough. Worthiness, play, and pleasure are natural qualities of what I call our innate magical child. And there are some things that are innate qualities to us, but for most of us, the harshness of life and a lot of wounding has kind of stifled it and made it go dormant inside us. And I see that show up all the time in clients. Like when, and this is why I made this magical child part one, because I really think like this recovering that, oh, I am naturally wired to receive. I am naturally wired to let things be easy. I'm naturally wired to want to play and to want life to be play and to be pleasurable, to be peaceful. I'm naturally wired for that. Is almost like a first step to being able to rewire ourselves and anchor our identity in that so that we can start creating and receiving from that place. So every time clients come in, I hear stories around how they lost that. You know, like an example of that is a client of mine who was singing, and her mother probably had a headache. It had been a long day, and her mother said something mean to her and essentially told her to stop singing, that she was giving her a headache and grating her nerves. And my client at that point decided that it wasn't safe for her to voice, to have a voice. So it wasn't safe voicing her needs, it wasn't safe voicing her desires, it wasn't safe claiming the power of her voice. I have had example like that as well. Like the and sometimes, by the way, it's well-meaning. Like I remember wanting to be an astronaut as a child and wanting to have this grand adventure of, going into space. And well-meaning adults would remind me that I didn't have the eyesight for it. I would never be able to be an astronaut because of my eyesight. You think I gave a shit about my eyesight as a child? Like I just could sense the potential, the joy, the play, and when well-meaning adults would just bring me back down to earth, where I should be realistic. Or, I have this memory, and this was actually one of the traumas I worked with, of being super excited to be in school and wanting to be outspoken, and I felt like I knew the answer to a question, and I'm jumping around and I'm doing this, and finally like the teacher's annoyed with me. She's like, fine, Ilsa, what's the answer? Of course it's the wrong answer. And she literally lost her shit on me and kicked me out of class in a not nice way in front of everybody. And I remember this thing again of it's not okay to think you're right. It's not okay. Like, you don't know. Like, and the moment you know, you put yourself at risk. And for a long time, I had to reclaim that, yes, I do know. I know myself. I know what's right for me. I am the most powerful force in my life. And it's okay for me to be joyous and excited about life. But it took a long time for me to reclaim that. Another example that's coming to mind right now is a client of mine who, as a small child, was dancing around the living room after taking her bath, and her parents or her dad got annoyed with her, and she decided in that moment, and I think like these are pretty close to her words, I decided it wasn't safe to show my joy to other people or to be happy around other people. I mean, imagine how that would affect your ability to show up in the world as an adult, to create what you want, to go after what you want, to build really intimate, nourishing relationships, and to be able to receive what you desire and deserve. So most of us have stories of our joy, our limitlessness, our confidence being crushed, of our bigness being too much for people around us, our joy, our aliveness being too much for people around us, and essentially us deciding that it was safer to shrink. It was safer to put all of that joy, all of that stuff in a little box. Hey, Adele. So Can you relate to this? Like, and if you can, and you'd like to reclaim that innate sense of joy, that creativity, that sense of possibility, and be able to receive with a lot more joy and a lot more ease and certainty and playfulness, then you can start the recoding process of that, the expansion process of your nervous system, by clicking the link in the description and booking one of your one-on-one 90-minute Wired for Wealth intensive at 55% off. Okay, so let's talk more about this process and this reclaiming and this remembering. So everything we do when we are expanding ourselves, we are rewiring our nervous system, we're recalibrating our identity into something bigger than where we're at right now. Everything we do is a calibration. It is an attunement to our potential, to something that's already alive and living inside us. So for me, that's one of the reasons why I don't like to talk about healing or becoming, because it almost feels like we're not that now. And that's why I call it the Great Remembrance, because for me, it is about actually remembering and reclaiming something that's already alive within you, something that already knows your greatness, knows your limitlessness, but essentially has gone into hiding because it wasn't safe to stay that way. The world didn't make it safe to stay that way. So when we reclaim that part of us that's gone into hiding, that's when our ability to start creating and receiving what we desire becomes more playful, more joyful, more easeful. And one of the ways that we do rewire our nervous system for that easeful and joyful receiving and that wealth is that great remembrance, because the more in alignment you are with your original design, with the self in you that as a young child had no doubt of his or her own bigness, of deserving, this child inside you that knew in his or her bones that you were born to create, that you were born to experience and receive big things. The more you can tap into that, the more you can reclaim and remember that and really embody it, the more in flow you become with it, with that ability to create, to receive, to have. And the more natural and safe receiving starts to feel. Receiving is an allowance. If there's anything in you that says, I can't, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, it's not safe for me to be this big, to receive this much, you will block it. You will not allow yourself to have it. And so being in this place of really remembering something that is innately yours is the beginning of the journey. A part of you was born feeling undeniably confident, bright, light, playful, joyful, worthy, knowing in here, in your bones, in your body, that you were enough and you were destined for great things. It's only later, for most of us, for some of us, and I'm going to talk about this briefly a little bit later, for some of us, we had such traumatic, even like our pregnancy time and birthing and, like early childhood that we can't even quite grasp or remember that. But it is still in you. For most of us, we were born feeling that way, and we were that way for a little while. Like I have this memory of watching my nephew, this was many, many, many years ago, watching my nephew, we're all outside eating lunch, and he like comes off his little chair, we're all fully dressed, he's fully dressed, and he starts running towards the pool, and he literally says, by myself, and like leaps, like arms outstretched into the pool. At no point did he have a sense that he could not swim. At no point did he have a sense that he needed others. He felt limitless in that moment. We didn't. We rushed, and a couple of us jumped into the pool after him and all of that. But, it's like that expansion is a natural quality within us. It's only later, through life experiences, that doubt, lack, worry, scarcity, not enoughness, even as adult, that hustling, that people pleasing, that striving, that having to earn or prove ourselves to get the love, the safety, the abundance that we desire showed up. As a small child, there was none of that. I told a story to my clients about this. There's this little girl that will go around in the neighborhood and will sell her art. And, she'll just come to your door and show you a bunch of her pictures and tell you which price each of them. Like, she's got no concept that, maybe people don't want her art. Of course, her art is amazing. Of course, people want her art. Of course, people will pay for it. And I was telling my clients, I was like, imagine if we felt that way about our work, and we had like that kind of enthusiasm and that kind of confidence in terms of selling. I mean, we would be unstoppable. So even if it was short-lived, you had a moment of absolute self-knowing, of being self-sourced, what I call, like, so full of yourself in all the best way that you felt undeniable, that you felt unleashed, that you felt like everything was possible, and you were filled with what I call delightful optimism about the future and about your place in the world, about your worth, about your right to receive, not even your potential to receive, your right to receive. A lot of the work that I do in the nervous system is about reclaiming that, is about re-embodying that, is about normalizing that and making it second nature so that you can show up in your life, in your relationships, in your work, as a parent from that place. So we rewire our nervous system for more, and we calibrate ourselves for abundant and easeful receiving. And to do that, we have to remember and reclaim that magical child inside us, that innate joy, that trust, that worth, that creativity, that confidence, prior to wounding and conditioning. Prior to the harshness of the world essentially forced us to contract our bigness, to fit ourselves in a small box, to not take too much space, and to not expect too much out of life. That child that you were expected the world. That child that you were felt like the world belonged to him or her, and the world was his or her oyster. So part of the work that we're doing here is we're bringing this child that's been essentially gone dormant and been pushed down, pushed back to keep us safe, essentially. And we're bringing this child back from the depths to the surface. We're remembering, we're reclaiming, we're tasting the quality of what that was like, either through memories, either by looking at other children, either by imagining what that would feel like in our bodies. And essentially, as we're doing that, we are rewiring the nervous system to normalize it. We are essentially we are reminding the nervous system that these qualities exist in us and they're normal. They're not something we have to work hard at. They just need to be allowed to come to the surface and to percolate and come to the forefront of our experience so that we can be and live from there. So we are literally reclaiming and remembering that we are safe. We're safe to be us. We're safe to be here. We're safe to have it our way and do it our way. And we're safe to have it all. But to do that, we have to become our own safe place for ourselves. We have to be like that fullness of ourselves so that it, no matter what's happening out there in the world, it feels safe for that magical child, for that innocence to start percolating to the surface, to the forefront, because it knows that we as adults are going to have its back, that we are going to support it, that we're going to protect it. We essentially become the adult that we did not have as a child. So that This part no longer needs to go dormant, no longer needs to fit itself in a box, no longer needs to stay small and quiet and play small to not ruffle anybody else's feathers, essentially. When we do that, that fierceness, that worthiness, that knowing that's inside you, that deserving can come out of hiding safely. For just a moment, like if you put your hand on your heart and you drop out of your head for a second, can you drop out of your head into your body, into your heart, and can you sense inside you that childlike innocence? That innate, simple, it's easier to do if you close your eyes, obviously don't do that if you're driving, but just for a second, like just that enthusiasm, that aliveness of being a child, of knowing that you've got your life ahead of you. And you were born for this. You were born to create and have big things. That it's kind of a simple, undoubting, delightful energy of being you, of being alive. It's like an innate enthusiasm and a certainty that you were born for a purpose. And all children who are whole, who are safe, who are supported, have that. Can you sense the taste, the hint of that within you? And that enthusiasm, that certainty, that joy and playfulness is what leads children to expect the best, to expect to create and receive amazing things. It is what leads them to know without any doubt that they are innately worthy of an amazing, fun life. Can you feel the hint of that inside you? Can you sense that lightness, that optimism, that enthusiasm, that joy for being alive, that confidence? Something that you had, even if you can't quite remember it, that you could be, do, or have anything you wanted. Something that was alive in you before you started to shrink yourself. Before you started to protect yourself, to guard yourself against disappointment, against criticism, against judgment. If you think of small children, they don't give a shit about annoying you. They're just going to ask all the time. They're going to want all the time. It's natural. Asking, wanting, receiving is natural for children. And that shit's like robbed out of us. And so here's the thing. If you can't quite feel it because you had such a neglectful, traumatic, harsh, difficult childhood, whatever ways that look like, then I'm going to invite you to start seeing these qualities in kids around you, or even like as a visualization, like sensing, seeing that potential. Like if you had a magical child who had a safer, more spacious environment to be herself, to be himself. Feel that potential, that joy, that playfulness, that confidence that is in you, but never got a chance to be embodied or expressed, because it's here. It's here nonetheless, regardless of the kind of childhood any of us have had. So that magic, it lives deep in you. And it lives deep in you, trying to stay safe and be protected from the rub of life. From the rub of life, the harshness of life that for a lot of us demands that you prove yourself, that you please others, that you earn and sacrifice for every crumb you get. For a lot of us, the life we live today as adults is so contrary to the life that magical child knew was possible that it's painful. It's painful for that part of us to come up. And so a lot of the work I do is as this we reclaim this energy within us, this potential within us, we also then are moved to start shifting not only our perspective, but what we do and how we are in the world to allow for more peace, more play, more pleasure, more joy. So that our lives doesn't rub this soft part of us the wrong way, and it becomes safe for it to start really coming to the surface. When we do that, when that part of us goes dormant, essentially, goes into hiding, so does our ability to let things be easeful. So does our ability to trust in ourselves and in our lives. So does our sense that the world is safe, and it is safe to be you. It's safe to achieve big things. It's safe to be big and to receive with ease. So a regulated and expanded nervous system allows you essentially to start reclaiming that dormant part of you, to reactivate it, to start bringing it to the surface and starting to create a life from that deep place of delight and nourishment. The nervous system essentially is the gateway back to yourself. It's the gateway back to ease, to joy, to feeling deeply nourished and supported by life as a whole. And it is the gateway to figuring out how to tangibly create a life that is in alignment with all these qualities, rather than feeling like the only way to get what you want is to have to pay or sacrifice or stress for it. Once we remember and we start to reclaim and embody and anchor ourselves in this part of us, then, the work becomes having the courage to bring it forward, to really bring it out of hiding, to express it, to own it, to embody it, to live it, so that you can create and receive from that place. And you can have a life that is essentially a representation of that. The things you want to remember here is that you can only receive as big as you are. Like that confident, creative, alive, magical child inside you is a giant. Like when you think of children, like my nephew who just leapt into the pool, even though he couldn't swim, fully dressed, had no sense that he was limited. That inner child within us is a giant. He or she feels like the world belongs to them and they can do and have anything they want. We're in a process of reclaiming that. When you start working with your nervous system, you're literally removing all the wounds, all the conditioning, all the trauma that have made you shrink. And you're remembering and reclaiming the truth of that. As you do that, you're literally rewiring your nervous system and your identity to that version. You re-become that version of you as an adult. I often think of nervous system work like coming full circle. Like we started out whole, limitless, innocent, open, and then life happened, and then we do our work, and now we're coming back as an adult, almost as if that child had never been wounded to begin with. Like, who would I be if that limitlessness, that sense of confidence, certainty, potential, that the world is my oyster and I can do, have, and be anything I want? Who would I be as an adult if that child, that knowing, had never been crushed? With nervous system work, you start to actually re-experience yourself that way, and you start to reclaim that reality as a mature adult, not just as a child. So when we're doing that, that child is a giant, we re-become the giant, and we create a safe place in our lives for us to come through and to show up in our bigness. Unleashed, proud, adventurous, curious, sovereign, bold, deserving, worthy. And everybody's a little different, right? Like your magical child is going to have his or her own qualities, his or her own way of showing up. Like I know that when I remember who I was like very young, I was a little bit of a brat. I was funny, I was bold, like I was big even though I was tiny. I'm a tiny human. I'm only like 4'8", 4'9" with the right shoes, and like 85 pounds essentially. So I'm a very tiny adult. I was a very tiny child, but I was big and I felt big. My presence felt big. Some of you might feel that you're just deeply connected. It's not that you're automatically loud and proud and boisterous and confident. That might not be you. That magic of that your inner child might just be someone who's so deeply connected to the wisdom of life that you move from like this really calm, quiet, but deeply rooted presence. So all of us are going to show up in a different way. Play, joy, delight, creativity is going to show up in a different way. But you only start to get a sense of that or a taste of that as you start to rewire your nervous system and reclaim these qualities within yourself. Only when you feel safe embodying all of that can you start receiving more with a lot more ease and a lot more joy. That's the work, essentially. In part one, the work is to start recalibrating and almost practicing these feelings, reclaiming them, so that we can anchor into them and we can reawaken that ancient, innate sense of wholeness, of enthusiasm within us, and we can kind of calibrate our nervous system for it. So that, because here's the thing you want to remember, like for most of us, our nervous system linked being this big, this open, this innocent, this limitless as dangerous, because life taught us that it was dangerous. It got crushed, we got judged, we got criticized, like we got put back in our place, we got disappointed, like all these things happened when we were living from that expansion, essentially. And so for our nervous system, part of the work is teaching the body, teaching the nervous system that it is safe to let that thing come out, to let those qualities come out, to let that identity, that way of being resurface again and to live from there. So that's part one. And we have to come back to it over and over so that we normalize it inside of us. And it becomes not only, I was going to say becomes second nature. Yeah, it becomes second nature, but it becomes our nature again. We reclaim our original nature, essentially. So this is part one. Next week, we're going to go into part two. And in part two, I'm going to explain, and that's probably going to be Thursday, because I'm doing a retreat on money and shifting our relationship to money for my clients next week, so I'm going to be busy. But in part two, we're going to delve into the nervous system and what we need and why we need to go beyond just regulation into expansion, to be able to anchor that identity, to be able to anchor that childhood innocence, that limitlessness, that expansion within us, so that we can create a reality that is significantly more expanded, and we can step into what I call the receiving paradigm, where receiving becomes easier and easier, and our ability to not only receive but to hold and to have increases without effort, without having to stress or sacrifice ourselves or sabotage ourselves or any of that. So that's what we'll go into next week for part two, which is all about the nervous system and shifting from contraction to regulation to then expansion, and the role of expansion in the nervous system to be able to receive more. So I'm going to give you my last call to action for today. If you're ready to expand out of contraction and actually repair, repattern, and recode your nervous system so you can really anchor your identity into the magic that was you, that is you, and you can achieve, grow, and receive more with a lot more ease and enjoyment in your life, in your relationships, in your work, and in your wealth, then I would love to work with you. And the way I do that, the way I help you start this process is with a 90-minute intensive that I called Wired for Wealth, because we are all originally wired for wealth. It's 90 minutes with you and I, one-on-one, where we're going to explore and figure out exactly what are the contractions, what are the wounds, what are the blocks in your nervous system that are holding you back in whatever area of your life you're wanting to move forward, in your business, in your relationships, in your health. And then I'm going to teach you, I'm going to take you through my proprietary hatching process so that you know exactly what to do when you feel that you're tight, you're blocked, you're in contraction. You know exactly what to do to bring yourself out of contraction back into expansion. And for new people, I offer this 90-minute intensive at 55% off, and so essentially ends up being $149 for you and I to sit and go through all of that, and for you to have essentially a map, a way to bring yourself back into that limitlessness, back into that expansion. And then if we want to continue working together, if you feel like we're a good fit and we want to go deeper, then I will give you a couple different options to do that. So the way you book that intensive, this is how I start working with everybody, is you click the link in the description of this video. I hope this was helpful, inspiring, that it gave you a hint of something that's still inside you that you might not have tapped into. I want you to remember that you are the most powerful force in your life, and your nervous system is the path to healing the past, and it's also the gateway to your potential and to the future that you not only desire but you deserve. And doing this work on our own is absolutely possible, but it's always easier to do it with the support of somebody who's walked away themselves. So if this is me and you feel called to try, and you feel called to really get a sense of the work I do, then I would love to do that with you. All right, that's what I've got. Have a wonderful rest of your week, a wonderful weekend, and I'm sending you love. Mwah.